This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs the Playbook, and I am so excited. I got another green waiver. That's right, Tulane's finest. That's Colie Edison. She is the CEO of the PBA, Professional Bowlers Association. And Colie, I'm going to start off because we have so many things in our lives. You could be my little sister, or I'm probably older. Just call you my niece. But most people don't know this about me. Came from a huge bowling family. I was born in Akron, Ohio, right next to Riviera Lanes.
Okay.
And my grandfather carried over 260 average. My mom, who's probably one of the most non-athletic second grade San Diego Jewish Academy teachers later on in life, literally her best is in the 270s. Like serious bowling, Earl Anthony on. I have seen them since childhood. Huge bowling fan as professional bowlers and of course as amateur bowling. So super excited to have you on, because I think when we talk about backdrops of professions, people, they lose sight, especially now during these compressed times of uncertainty, how important the skills that we gain, the knowledge that we have, and the desire that can be placed in the most odd niche places. And, you know, we don't have to share, we just found out that Tulane had a bowling team. But yeah, your whole profession, I guarantee you when you're in high school, if I said, hey, you know, your future, you'll be the CEO of Pro Bowlers Association, you'd have looked at me and said, Dave, what are you talking about? What did you want to do when you went to college? What was your vision?
Yeah, so I majored in communication with a minor in film studies, and I wanted to go into broadcast journalism. So I've always been involved with entertainment and media in many different ways. But if you would have told me, you know, you're going to go into bowling, I probably would have punched you in the face and been like, what are you talking about? I do make a joke of it, though, because I grew up in a town called East Brunswick. Brunswick is a bowling brand. I went to Tulane. Lanes are what we bowl on. So I think whether I knew it or not, bowling was always going to be part of my life. But, you know, your parents have impressive bowling skills. I don't. My high score is a 130. But I love what bowling stands for. I've been involved in this industry for going on 12 years, from both the recreational side and now the professional side. And for me, you know, they say that you can't be all things to all people, but bowling really can be. It's a great unifier from, you know, a recreational sport when you're a child growing up and participating in leagues. You see, I have senior leagues that bowl, and I'm talking 80s and 90-year-olds who just love to do it. And then all the way up to the professional side. So for me, you know, I fell in love with what bowling can be, not necessarily what it is today.
And, you know, looking at that, the values, right? It's so important for entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs and extrapreneurs to really tie in what they do with personal values, experiential values, even giving and receiving values of how that works. And there's so many things about bowling to me that are aligned with so many of the values that are important. And for you, it seems to be a passion as well. What are some of the values that are synergistic in bowling to what our society as a whole, you know, really should focus in on, or maybe raise its importance of?
So I think one of the things that I've really found is bowling's role in society is escapism. You can escape into a world of play where everybody is equal and we're using a ball to hit 10 pins. And at the end of the day, no matter what the wrapper looks like, the core of our sport stays the same. So we have a lot of locations because not only as the CEO of the PBA, I'm also the Chief Customer Officer of Bowlero Corp. Bowlero is the world's largest owner and operator of bowling centers, and we own 300 bowling centers. Some of our centers are really high end, and we have a great food and beverage offering and beautiful locations, and others are more traditional, and you might find our snack bars. But no matter what, the core of the sport, the core of the activity is the same, and that's a world of play. And I think so often we forget how important play is in our lives. It's important to us as we grow up, and it's an important element of childhood. And then we get to adulthood and we sort of are so focused on reaching our next goal and hustling that we forget the benefits of play. And there's been a lot of study around it, but it's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about bowling, because it's one of those escapes that everybody can do. It's a really low barrier to entry. You know, we've heard it called a a blue collar country club before, right? And I love that analogy, because you don't need to spend a lot of money to have fun, and you don't need to be good to have fun at bowling. And I think those are core values that we don't see in a lot of other activities in our daily lives.
Yeah, I think historically you may find, just knowing sports myself and being in the business of sports industry for so long, that the PBA may be credited for saving golf. And when I say that, is you use that analogy of being the blue collar, low point of entry country club. And yet golf moved in the other direction, which, at times would not even allow people of our religion to attend a country club or different colors, to where now they are fighting so hard to be, this blue collar country club where it's accessible to everyone with a low point of entry, with the exact same environment and socialization as bowling. And so where do you see, that main goal of, if you take Topgolf and others that are copying the business model, and utilizing, hey, there's profit just in, food and beverage and hospitality, and this backdrop, like you said, of an escape. Maybe it'd be great if we allowed everybody to play, which has always been, to me, growing up in Akron, Ohio, looking down the 32 lanes at Riviera Lanes where the legends of bowling were, but it was also, to me, my local bowling place.
Yeah, so that's home of the TOC, the Tournament of Champions, which is one of our highest rated shows. So I think for me, I'm actually looking at what golf has done from the media standpoint. I think we've done a great job of, our recreational facilities are open to everybody, and we cater to such a diverse audience. I mean, you come in the morning and it's kids bowling and practicing and having birthday parties. At night, you're going to see corporate events, and in the evenings, and then late at night, it's a party, and it's closer to a club back in the day. But what we haven't been able to do, and where I'm really focused, is on the media side of things. So how do we build the sport of professional bowling at the PBA level to be on par with the other major leagues, so that at the end of the day, we can command a really high media rights fee? So that's where most of my focus is now. And for me, it's a lot of the preconceived notions around pro bowling. That's my grandfather's sport. That's old white men, with beer bellies. They're not athletic, and it's a really boring thing to watch. And if it's on, I'll watch it. But if it's not on, no loss there. So my goal is to raise the profile of the PBA. It's to break through the noise and the clutter and actually have a name for ourselves. And doing that, increasing viewership, increasing visibility, and just getting us back where I think we belong, which was that old glory days of Chris Schenkel on ABC every Saturday.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, there's no better time than now in order to do that, because of the build of content, meaning, we've really taken on, even with the time of uncertainty we're in, the importance of capturing our content correctly, amplifying it to the right audience, and perpetuate it even further for monetization, which never existed before you and I got involved in these different activities. But I see a real opportunity, because as you look at content, there's people out of the 4.4 billion we're now able to truly reach with the right types of marketing, where before, it was a shotgun approach. Here, you could be an expert at opening birthday presents and have millions of people subscribe in and watch you every day. So something as exciting as bowling, I see, though, to reach the level, there's two things that you have to target, because you can have the content captured, amplified, and perpetuated, but the money side of it, right? How do we get the companies involved to get the money up? And then the gambling side, with the last 18 months before this, 22 states opening up sports gambling. Gambling's been, just like golf, a huge part of the game. And it's more and more socially acceptable and more fun. There's more polling and things that you could bet on in bowling than a lot of other sports. So what are you doing to monetize in that respect, with the purse money and the gambling side? Because I think those are two critical catalysts for you to really compete up with the bigger stick and ball sports.
Yeah, so I think it's about two things. It's about being creative and being flexible. So right now, on Saturday, June 6th and Saturday, June 13th, we were on TV. We were on Fox. We were on the big network when no other leagues were. And what did that mean? Well, we are up 43% year over year in ratings and viewership, and up 143% for that male demo 18 to 34. Those are the stats that we need to take to the sponsors and say, look at who's watching, look at when they're watching, and let's get your brands involved. And I think a big part of that is also player development. So I alluded to the fact before that my bowlers don't look like what you think they looked like back in the day. So we put on our strike derby a couple of weeks ago where the guys had 2 minutes to bowl as many strikes as possible across 3 lanes. They were hustling, they were moving, it was athletic, it was speed bowling. And yes, some of the purists were unhappy, but that's what I'm talking about when I say that we have to honor tradition, but embrace change. And we have to embrace technology. So we actually worked with Fox Bet to offer sports betting for the first time ever online for the PBA. And it was only available in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and Colorado, but we saw great numbers and great fan engagement. We've also partnered with Fox to have something called the strike track. So now you can see exactly where your ball is going down the lane. So I think if we can make the product more dynamic, we'll be able to reach more potential advertisers and then put that money right into the prize fund. Because for me, that's the cyclical process that we're working towards. How do we get it so that our professional athletes can make real money and can do this full time and support their families?
And are you leveraging the personal brand side of things? Obviously, from the NCAA to all other sports, it's opening up, coming from the sports agentry background and running Leigh Steinberg, it was a big issue about how to use an individual brand. And now it's a completely new world of how the individual brands, I think, from investment banking to marketing, advertising, sponsorship, endorsement, are going to be the lead. And no better sport than an individual sport like the PBA to build individual brands. Does, as a league, the NBA is really good at this. Do you support and enhance and provide services and solutions for the individual brands, knowing that all ties rides all ships?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you should see our decks because I can show you the Bud Light Seltzer Lounge, which can be available to you for the right price. And if you want your Geico Gecko on our pin sweep, we'll put it there. So I think, going back to that flexibility, creativity, we are new. This is the new PBA. So Bolero Corp bought the PBA in September. This is a new generation. Honoring tradition, embracing change is not something I just talk to. It's what we're living and breathing. So player development means, how do you, Kyle Troop, who's our great pro with the fro, he has an afro, he's a fun guy. How do you set yourself up to be somebody that Bud Light wants to get behind? Well, that means you need a great social media following. So we're going to give you media strategy work, and your on-camera personality needs to be there. So we're going to train you. So I think it means just going deeper. And the PBA never really thought that way before, that each individual bowler can be an individual brand and support individual brand sponsors, but it all ladders up to raising the profile of the PBA and those brand portfolios.
Yeah, that's super smart. What about the fantasy side of things? I know we talked a little bit on gambling, but it seems like such a natural fit to start building those individuals. And, it's boosted football more than anything, with it being the most popular sport for women 2-1. I love the quality and nature of esports, but also of bowling. I tell a story real quick. One of my best friends is a big golfer and a big bowler, and he thinks he's an athlete. And I'm like, you're not an athlete, dude. You have great skill. Right? He's like, well, I bowled a 260, whatever. And I'm like, come over here. And I was at my daughter's 5th birthday party at the bowling alley. And so I walked him over to my mom, who's like your typical Jewish mom, right? Standing about 5'2", just so sweet. You could just picture my mom, right? The bubby. And I'm like, hey, Mom, what's your high score? She's like 279. I'm like, see? And I go, look at my mom. Is she an athlete, or does she have great skill? He goes, fair enough. I ended the whole argument. But I can see, just a natural fit to get more women, men, all ages involved with like draft parties, following it every Saturday or online. What plans do you have for the fantasy side of things?
Yeah, so we are we're a few years into our PBA league. So this is our team sport. And I love this because if you grew up bowling, you grew up playing league. If you went to college, that's team bowling. And then there's really nothing once you get to the pro level. So we've developed the PBA league right now. We have 10 teams of 5 We have a full draft that you can do. We had a ton of people who were doing mock drafts online, and we want to expand that. Where do I see that in the future state? I can see individual teams being owned by other franchises, right? So what do we go to market? What's our go to market strategy for the PBA league? The options are endless. It's really limitless. So that's where I can see the focus happening on fantasy when we talk about the PBA league.
Last question. I really enjoy this. You know, I always say you can't tell where you will be going unless you connect the dots backwards, right? People say, Dave, I want to be, you know, just like you and do this. I was like, if I told you how I got here, you'll never get here. What advice do you give, especially now with so much going on with young entrepreneurs and graduates, where they really have a less distinctive path? There's so many rethought industries and institutions and changes. I always say the cream rises to the top. I would have bet on you years ago when I met you at Tulane that I don't know what you're going to be, but I always say you have it. You know, definitely, Colie, you have it. What do you tell those people graduating right now about acquiring it, or what should they be focused in on in order to enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of their potential like you have?
So one of the things that I'm a firm believer in is being an advocate for yourself. I got to where I am today because I went to bat for myself. And especially as a young woman, no one is going to advocate for you like you will. And I think that's really important. And I spoke to the Tulane bowling team, and they were happy to hear that this is all true. When I saw an opening at Bolero Corp because somebody was leaving on maternity leave, I put together a PowerPoint presentation on why I should fill that position. No one asked me to do that, but I did it because I believed that I was right for the job. And I've always felt that way, that if you have the skills and if you are authentic and if you are well educated, and that doesn't mean your schooling, that means knowing your ish, right? I'll keep it PG, but knowing your stuff, then you need to fight for yourself and you need to prove why you deserve that next position, that raise, that first job, that open door. And you can't be afraid to be your own number one fan. And that's what I believe in. And that's what's gotten me to where I am today. So I would just say, be your own best advocate because no one else will do it better than you.
Absolutely. And I always tell people, vote for yourself. Now I'm going to say,
yeah,
vote for yourself and go to bat for yourself. Things you have to have the law of Goya besides the law of attraction. The law of Goya is get off your ass. And Colie Edison, you certainly have done that in your career. And I can't wait to see. I'm praying and hoping and rooting for you because I'm a huge bowling fan myself, as you know. So thank you so much. Colie Edison, the CEO of the PBA, with Dave Meltzer, Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.